today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. So, what are we going to talk about today?
Very first one I want to talk about happened in 1955 in August 21st, and it was near Hopkinsville, Kentucky. So in this particular case, just after sunset, Billy Ray Taylor was living with another family. There were two families living in the same house.
I'm thinking of Billy Ray Cyrus. Sorry.
He was living in a house with two families, and he went outside to go to the well to get some water.
It's daytime, right?
It's nighttime.
Nighttime, okay.
Nighttime.
All right, so...
Just after sunset.
Gotcha.
The sun had just set. So he went outside to get some water from the well, and while he was walking to the well, he saw a light in the sky, and he looked up and he saw an object flying over the treetops, and it was emitting sparks that were multicolored, almost looked like a rainbow trailing off of this object. So this object was oval shaped, like possibly round, you know, like two of the same shape put together,
right,
like typical UFO of the time, but very thick in the center. And this object flew over overhead and landed behind some trees just a little further in the distance. But he could see the light from this thing through the trees.
Okay. All right, yeah.
So as he was standing there, he became scared because he didn't know what this thing was. And so he ran into the house and he told everyone inside what he'd just seen, but no one believed him because this guy liked to tell stories.
Storyteller.
A storyteller. So nobody believed his story. But he was able to convince one of his friends to come outside with him, and they walked back to the well and they didn't see anything. So his friends started thinking, oh yeah, he's making up a story.
Yeah, it's full of it, yeah.
But when they were walking back, they saw this creature floating out of the tree line above the ground, and it was silver in color. It had very long arms, and its hands were raised up above its head, but it was floating directly towards them. It had very long ears, it had red eyes, and they said it looked like a goblin, is how they described it. You know, they were obviously freaked out.
Right.
You know, they didn't know what the hell this creature was.
And
so
those lights.
Right, and it was glowing. They ran back in the house, and they were so scared that one of them picked up a shotgun, and the other one picked up a .22 caliber rifle.
Right.
And so everyone inside soon realized that something's going on. Maybe there's some wild animal outside or something, you know, some mountain lion or something.
Right.
They were describing what they saw outside, and, you know, they still didn't believe them, but they could see that they were scared of something.
Right.
So all of a sudden, this creature came up to the screen of the window and put its face up against the window.
Oh, shoot.
And Taylor shot his gun at this creature, but he missed it. And
this guy's been drinking before, probably?
No. And obviously, once he shot, he put a hole in the screen, you know, and, you know, everyone was very scared at this point. As the night progressed, there were up to 12 of these. 12 of these glowing creatures coming towards the house, surrounding the house, running across the roof of the house.
That's crazy.
The men all went outside at one point to try to find these things and maybe shoot them outside.
Right.
You know, so they wouldn't break into the house or whatever. And as they walked out onto the porch, Taylor was swiped by a talon-shaped claw that came from the roof.
A claw.
A claw. They described it as a claw, you know, swiping at him.
So beside the two guys, the rest of the family also saw that?
Yes, everyone in the house saw it.
Okay.
So all of the men in the house decided to be brave and go outside and try to get rid of these creatures or kill them or whatever to protect themselves. So once that happened, they all ran back inside.
Oh.
Okay? So these creatures just kept, you know, trying to get into the house, scratching on the walls and looking in the windows. And so they just kept shooting at these things. And the women later described that the sound of the bullets
Right.
hitting these creatures sounded like bullets ricocheting off of metal of some type.
Really?
Yeah. They said that it didn't affect them at all. When they were
weird.
shot, they didn't get knocked down. It didn't phase them at all. It just ricocheted off of them, and it sounded like
Metal.
like bullets ricocheting off of metal.
Like, ding.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, this is so weird.
Eventually, it became quiet. They couldn't hear the scratching anymore.
Right.
They looked outside. They couldn't see these creatures anymore. So they decided to run outside and get in their vehicles. And they
GTFOH.
and they drove straight to the Hopkinsville police station.
Wow.
They were like
Went
in a
to the cops.
little bit further out in
Right,
the
right,
country. So the police, they didn't know what to think of this.
Right. Especially at that time.
There was a lot of UFO sightings going on at the time. So the police said, I don't know, maybe there's
And
something
it's
to
probably
it.
a small town too.
It's a very small town.
So everybody knows everybody. They
Everybody
probably know
knows
this-
everything.
They probably
Yeah.
know this guy, the storyteller.
Exactly.
So
So at any rate, I don't know if the police notified the media or they just found out somehow, but they showed up at the house along with the police who came to do their investigation.
right.
When the police went there, all they found was a shot up house. They saw,
How do you call it? The strainer house. Like a strainer.
yeah, it looked like a battle had gone in the house. Gunshots everywhere, pieces of wood blown off, and holes in the windows, and shotgun shells everywhere. So anyway, after this, the media left, and after the police finished their investigation, which they said they didn't know, there was no evidence except that there had been a shootout.
Nobody knows as
and,
much as they can. Yeah.
The house was shot up. So once everyone left, the families, they were so hyped up they couldn't sleep.
Right. It's like a
So
haunted
they
house.
tried to go to sleep, but they
Right.
were scared.
It's like a haunted house.
So at about 3 a.m, the next morning, they came back. And there were
Who came back?
those creatures
the
came back.
creatures came back.
And they were climbing all over the roof, running back and forth on the roof. They were scratching on the sides of the house. And when that all stopped, they jumped in the car and they took off. But the neighbors said that once they left that evening,
Mm-hmm.
after those creatures came back the second time, they never came back.
Wow.
That they moved away to Evansville, Indiana.
Indiana. And they were in Kentucky, right?
Yeah, they were in Kentucky. So the case, was investigated, but Project Blue Book didn't really do an official investigation, even though
that case?
of
Yeah.
that particular
Right.
case, because they said the investigators thought that the story was too incredible and
far-fetched.
that it was a hoax,
Oh, okay. And
because there was no evidence.
Like
There were no
hard evidence.
footprints on the ground.
Right,
There
it
was
was
no dead alien.
just visuals of
Right.
people
There was
that
no
were here.
impression on the ground where this thing
Yeah.
supposedly landed or whatever. So it wasn't really, they looked at it, but it wasn't really investigated.
Right.
There were some theories that were brought forward. There's a particular mushroom
Right.
that grows on.
Psilocybin. Yeah.
No. This
Oh.
mushroom grows on dead wood,
Okay.
and it's phosphorescent.
Oh, really?
It glows in the
glows
dark.
in the dark. Oh.
So if they were looking through the trees and these mushrooms were there, they would be glowing.
yeah.
So
It's
some-
kinda small though.
So some
right?
people say, well, there could be a cluster
Oh,
of them.
that's true. That's true.
So maybe
Oh, maybe on
you
the
see
tree
what I'm saying?
bark.
On the tree,
Yeah.
and they, from a distance, maybe it looked like some creature. Another theory
Lucille.
was that it was owls.
Oh, the
That they
eyes
were,
of the owl.
because the talon, and they said it was running across the roof and, scratching on the house. It could have been a
But
group
they-
of owls or something.
Yeah, but owls are not in groups usually.
No, and they're usually,
One or two. It's the
they
male-
don't like to
yeah.
be around people.
No, and they stay up in the trees.
But those were just some of the theories that were brought forward. So I pulled up a couple of newspaper articles here. So this one shows the house
Oh, that was the actual house.
This is the actual house, and there's the guns, right?
Oh, that's funny.
That they had, that they shot, supposedly.
Right.
Well, they definitely shot up the house with them. And the police said in their report that alcohol was not a factor.
Okay, because I was wondering, because
Yeah, they said that none of them had been drinking.
And is it Dry
and-
County? Was it in Dry County or just?
Well, there was a rumor that there was a still somewhere on the property, but that was never proven.
Right.
But one of the women who lives in this house
Right.
doesn't permit any alcohol
Or any?
and no swearing in the house. Here's a picture of
Those guys.
those guys there.
Oh, look at the guy. He's telling a story.
Yeah,
Apparently.
he's telling the story. This is where he saw the thing coming down.
The guy on the left.
And
kinda,
this is where the
kind of high.
this is where the Hobbit or whatever it was, where
Oh,
the goblin
right.
was standing. And here's another news article about the 12 little men that showed up at the house. This is actually facing from the house towards the tree line where he said this thing.
That's the place. Okay.
Right, where the thing flew over and it landed behind these trees here. And then this is what the UFO supposedly looked like. Right?
Oh, you know what?
Very typical.
It looks like those Schmuckers
it
sandwich
does.
with no crust.
Right. Those peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that they cut the outside out.
Yeah.
It looks just like that.
Those guys were tripping.
Right. So this is what the creature looked like.
So you have a illustration.
Yeah. There were 3 different illustrations that were drawn of these creatures, all very similar. I just pulled up one of them just to get because this one gives you a profile view and a front view, and it kind of describes each section of the creature. But you can see their arms are very long and spindly. Weird. They look kind of muscular in the chest here and the upper arms too.
Pecs. What's those eyes? It looks like those barnacles.
It does look like a barnacle, but it also reminds me of those, those goldfish with the bug eyes.
Yeah, blowfish. It's the blowfish.
Well, blowfish are the
but they
pufferfish.
Pufferfish, yeah,
right.
Because before they puff, they look like this.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, almost frog-faced as well.
Oh, that's the mouth?
This is the mouth. This big line was the mouth. But they were silver and shiny, metallic looking, and glowing, supposedly.
I almost want to redo a costume like this and see. You know what I mean? Like glowing, how can it glow? And maybe there's a way you can redo those, reenact and see what could have been seen or not, or you know what I mean? If you do a reenactment. It'd be
interesting to get some of those mushrooms and shape it in a certain shape and look at it from do some experiments.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. We'll see you in the next episode. And also, if you or someone you know has some evidence,
stories, evidence,
photographs, hard evidence,
right,
we're willing to hear what you have to say and what you might have to show.
Right.
Check back and see our next episode.
And we're doing the stupid thing.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Please.
And leave a comment.
Yeah, leave a nice comment.
Thank you.
A nice one.